And our special guest today on Absolutely Famous is Chiefs Super Rugby midfield backline star Alex Nankivell. Alex, great to have you as a guest again, and pretty convincing win in Melbourne, but I guess you weren't so happy with the second half.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, John. Yeah, it was the old cliche game of two halves. We started really strong, really ruthless, and kind of what we wanted to do. We executed well, but then I think the second half probably maybe a little bit of the heat started to get to us, and we probably fell in the trap of playing a bit loose and not sticking to our game as much, and started to make errors, and that's when discipline kind of got the best of us too. So. Yeah, we did get beaten in that second half, but luckily we had a good first half to make up for it.
Yeah, 38-3. I don't think you were going to lose from there, but Moana Pacifica certainly brought a bit more intensity in the second half.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you start getting loose in your game, and we probably started dropping off a few tackles and weren't getting in front as much, like the big boys, and they get good go for a ball if you let them. So that probably was a factor of that too. And then they just played with confidence and played on top of us a little bit.
Yeah, quite a few Marcos boys, your teammates in the opposition too. It's good to see.
Yeah, it's awesome, mate. That team's like pretty much made up of a lot of Tasman boys and a lot of Hawke's Bay boys. So it's always good playing them. Seen a few boys that I've played with.
Yeah, yeah. So what was the message from the coaches after the game? Are they obviously reasonably happy you won the game convincingly?
Yeah, we didn't kind of review too deeply. It was more just kind of understanding why the second half happened the way it did, and how we can kind of be more aware of the situation going forward. So just stuff around our discipline. What happens kind of when we lose back-to-back moments and the other team gets momentum, but it was pretty hard. We had 3 yellow cards, so we couldn't really get into our game too much. Played with one less man. And then it was just little things like around our defence, like our tackle percentage dropped from 95% in the start of the first half to I think it was 85 in the last 20 minutes of the game. So just little things like that we can be aware of to focus on going into this game.
Yeah, you mentioned the warm conditions in Melbourne. Is the new rules or the new interpretation of the rules to speed the game up looks as though they're having the desired effect?
Yeah, I think it is actually. To be honest, I didn't really notice it too much in the pre-season, but I definitely noticed it in that game. And then looking back on the game, like especially with the stats, the ball's in play a lot longer than what it was last year on average. So I guess we probably adapted our training a little bit to that. So and training is only harder than the game, so you don't really notice too much, but you've definitely seen it in review, and you kind of been like, oh, that happened because of that reason. So yeah, it is a lot faster. It's probably, hopefully it's better for the fans too.
Yeah, well, it's better. Well, my personal opinion is it looks better, in the early stages for sure. But Melbourne, beautiful city. Did you get much of a chance to go out and have a look at it while you were there?
No, not really. Luckily we went last year a couple of times, but we were staying kind of towards St Kilda a bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure where that sits. I think it's a bit, was it southeast a little bit?
It's closer to the beach, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, down to the beach. So it was still like about 15 minutes to get into town. I wouldn't have any bands or anything. So we kind of just went down to St Kilda Beach, walked around, had a few coffees, didn't do a whole lot. There wasn't too much time to get out and about, but fortunately we've been there before. So because we normally stay right in the mix at like kind of by the casino. There's heaps of hotels around there, and we stay there, so everything's kind of at your doorstep, which is pretty handy. So, but no, it was still awesome being over there.
Yeah, I bet. Do you get to mix with the opposition players? The boys from the other teams much, or are you pretty full on your itinerary there?
No, we definitely do. Obviously, like having played a lot against them and with a lot of the guys in Super Rugby, you're always catching up with people. But the way it worked this year is, I think there was like 3 teams assigned to. So say there was 4 hotels that everyone was staying at. There was 3 teams at each. So we were actually staying with the Waratahs and in the Western Force. So it was good to catch up with like the likes of Chase Teote, who's just gone over there this year. Then I know a few boys in the TARS and some of the management for the Force. So we do mix and mingle with them when we see them, which is nice. So yeah.
No, it's good to hear. Yeah, I guess Tony Lewis, your old CEO from Tasman, now the CEO of the Force, he wouldn't have been too happy with what happened there in the second half.
No, I'm sure he wouldn't have. Because we were watching that game. I think when we were on the plane at some stage or in the airport, I had to board it, and then it was a lot closer than that in the first half. And then we seen the score when you get off the plane, and we were like, wow, they got smoked. No, he wouldn't have been.
That's what happens. But what's the feeling like, your feeling about the Chiefs team this year? I mean, from an outsider looking in, I think Damien McKenzie, for one, has made a huge difference for you. But, do you feel as though it's a better team than last year?
Well, I think having him back's like pretty awesome. Just like the caliber of player he is. He can just kind of do everything. He's got an amazing skill set and just his like kind of mindset is unreal. But I think like other than that, it's pretty similar squad to the last couple of years. Like I think that's probably the beauty of it. Like we've all had a bit of experience for the last 2-3 years together and built that kind of cohesion, and we played the same way with a few little tweaks here and there. So I think just that experience and being as a group for a bit longer, like I think it's kind of can't really pay for that. Like you can buy players and whatnot, but I think that cohesion experience that you have as a group together playing the same game is massive. So, and we've kind of been there 2021 pretty close, 2022 got to the semi pretty close again. So we know that we can compete, and so that belief's there as well.
Yeah, you went very close last year, and I suspect if you had won the semi-final, you probably would have gone on and won the final. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Can only imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So you got, well, as far as All Black selection goes, I guess if I was playing Super Rugby, it would always be in the back of my mind, but some of the cards are falling your way a bit. Poor old Jack Goodhue can't buy an injury, can he? He just gets injured every time he runs out at the moment. And Anton, your teammate, Leonard Brown's injured. Quinn Tupaia, of course, your other teammate's injured. So I would imagine you'd be fairly close.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I like to think I would be. Feel as though my kind of last few years at Super Rugby have been pretty decent for the most part. But yeah, you kind of like it's my dream to be an All Black. So that's my goal. Like, other than being the best I can for the Chiefs and trying to win a Super Rugby title, like that's the other thing that I want to do before I leave. So I'm doing everything I can to put my best foot forward for that. But yeah, I feel sorry for those guys there. Like Jack's had a horrible run, like with major injuries. Because I was at Lincoln when he was there back in 2015 down in Christchurch, Lincoln University. So he's had a bad run. Anton a little bit the same as of late. So you got to feel for those guys there. Hoping they're not too bad. But
yeah, it must be. I guess, well, you had injuries earlier on in your career. How tough is it mentally to sort of, when it's happened, you've got a long rehab ahead of you. I guess you've got to get your head around it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it is definitely tough. And like, it doesn't help that when you're injured, you spend a bit more time away from the team. So you're not always in the mixer with the boys every day. So that's probably the hardest part. You're kind of a bit separated. I'm pretty fortunate. I haven't had any really, really long major ones, like any reconstructions or anything. But I think definitely the challenge is mentally, like how you cope with it. And everyone's a bit different. Like some people love the kind of process of rehabilitation. And I'm trying to kind of sit in the middle. Like I find it tough being away from the team, but like I'm pretty content as to like what happened. Like I'm not going to dwell on the fact that I'm injured and whatnot, and just get back to it and do what I can at the current time.
Yeah, part of the game, unfortunately. Is there much banter between the boys about the All Black coach, who it's going to be next year? I know we know who it is this year. It's Ian Foster, of course, but a lot of debate about, well, certainly amongst us anyway, us fans.
Yeah. It's been a hot topic for a long time, But
yeah.
not really. Like, not within the playing group or at training. You don't really hear much about it. Obviously, like the All Blacks coaches, the current ones, like the assistants and whatnot, come in every so often and see how their boys are going and whatnot. So, no, to be honest, we don't really talk about that. It is an interesting space. It's been handled interestingly, I think, too, this year, but hey, time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard from a couple of ex-All Blacks, including John Curran and Kieran Reid, that it shouldn't affect the players because they're just concentrating on what they've got to do, and whatever happens, which is out of their control, it happens.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So good. I was looking through the team sheets today. I got a huge shock, and I see Quentin McDonald starting for the Crusaders this weekend. I don't know where he's come from.
Yeah, I was actually just on Instagram before, and I seen that another, like, a rugby page posted about him having played his first game for the Crusaders. I was like, what? That shocked me too. But I did hear he was down there training with them. So they must have got a few injuries or resting Cody Taylor and a few of the boys giving it a go, which is pretty cool. It's awesome for the old fella.
Oh, he'll love it. He'll be right into that.
Yeah, shit, yeah. Still going good too.
Yeah, he is. We got the Highlanders in Hamilton on Friday. They'll be pretty hurt, I guess. They've had 2 poor results.
Yeah, they will be. They've kind of got nothing to lose at this stage of the season. Everything they gain, so we're definitely not taking them for granted at all. They've got a few key players back in the mixer for them. Aaron Smith will be huge for them. And then just having De Groot and Shannon back in the pack will mean they'll be going forward a little bit better. So it'll be a good competition, to be honest. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, just see what happens tomorrow night, I guess.
Hopefully get a big crowd there in Hamilton to cheer the boys on.
Yeah. Hopefully. First home game of the season.
Yeah.
Surely.
Alex, thanks a lot for your time, mate. Always love catching up with you, and we'll do the same in a couple of weeks and go well on Friday night.
Cheers, John. Yep, thanks for having me on again, mate.
We're cheering you. We're cheering you on into that All Black jersey, mate. Doing everything we can do.
Thank you very much.
Okay, buddy. All the best.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. See ya.